everyone. In this second Break the Stigma segment, I speak with Pam Covarrubias, the podcast host of Café con Pam and designer, actually, of my podcast logo. I want to give a trigger warning to those of you that are listening right now and have a hard time hearing about sexual assault experiences. Right off the bat, I want to let you all know, because I genuinely care and it's very important for you all to take care of yourselves. So if you know that you get triggered by hearing of others' people's sexual assault experiences, then this episode might not be appropriate to listen to at this time. So if you go through and listen to the episode and get triggered, or if you're already triggered by listening to me, you're welcome to reach out to myself, Pam, or the number that I'm leaving in the show notes. In this segment, we explore Pam's path of forgiveness with various areas of her life, beginning with her father during her childhood. She opens up about the discrimination she experienced in college and discloses about her toxic relationship with her ex, and tells us about who she met that helped her change the direction of her life. She talked about where her mentality was after the breakup and her experience with sexual assault and her overall journey towards healing. Let's meet Pam. Pam Covarrubias is a San Diego-based documentary photographer, brand strategist, podcast host, and storyteller at heart who works with individuals to help them develop their personal and professional identities while staying true to their story. She is an accomplished graphic designer, photographer, motivational speaker, spiritual healer, and mixed media artist. As a creative as well as a strategic marketer, she has keen sense of how to blend creativity and practicality to create the best results for her clients. Pam's mission is to spread ideas, move people. Pam believes in the power of storytelling, and by sharing her own experiences, she encourages youth to do the right thing. Through her weekly podcast called Café con Pam, she enables others to share their message and empowers them to fulfill their mission in life. Since birth, Pam was introduced to the world of metaphysics, numerology, Reiki, bionomica, and Feng Shui. I don't even know if I said that right. Over the past 10 years, Pam has continued to seek growth through mentors, meditation, EFT, and healing crystal. Pam holds a Bachelor of Fine Arts in Graphic Design and is a lifelong student of photography, an engaging public speaker. She has earned a Competent Communicator and Competent Leader certificate from Toastmasters International. Currently, she's finishing to be a conscious nutrition coach. Pam serves as a marketing chair for Chula's Mission, a nonprofit organization that provides mentorship and guidance to motherless girls. Growing up, mental health was discussed in her background. As you will learn in the beginning of this segment, her father was actually a psychotherapist in Mexico. So that's a little bit about Pam. I want to let you all know also that the day that we're recording, something funky was going on with my internet, so please bear with the audio quality for this episode. All right, here we go. So Pam, welcome to the Break the Stigma segment.
Yes.
For today, we're going to learn all about you, or some about you, because we have 30 minutes.
All right, let's do this.
So Pam, we spoke a little bit last week about your life. And listeners, if you hear my dog, I'm so sorry.
I also live by the airport, so planes might fly by.
Fun. Okay. So where do we start? Because I learned so much about you in just actually a few minutes last week that it's been quite the journey for you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think everyone has their own story, right? And
yeah.
I don't know. I think I truly believe that things that have happened to me have trained me in a way, for lack of a better word.
Sure.
Given me the strength to the next thing, basically. And I learned earlier in life about forgiveness. And then years later, I encountered a date rape incident. And because I had learned about forgiveness before, I don't think my healing was easier at all. I don't want to make it like, oh yeah, I just woke up and it was fine, because it wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
But it was more palatable to understand that I had no control over someone else's actions.
Yeah. And what I also learned is that you're very insightful in various realms of our lives, because you grew up with the father that was a psychotherapist in Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
So how was that throughout your childhood?
Well, it's interesting because I didn't necessarily grow up with him until I was 15, 16.
Oh.
He left. He left us when I think I was 11. And the reasoning was that he wanted to look for his happiness. So after he left, of course, they took us to therapy, and it was art therapy. So we had to draw all kinds of things.
Okay.
And I understand that I have the privilege of having that opportunity. Not everyone does that.
Right.
A lot of people just grow up with not even access.
Whose idea was it to take you guys to therapy?
I don't know. I don't know if it was my mom or my dad. Probably my dad. So me really understanding who he was didn't happen until later. And for a long time, I didn't want to be like him because he left me. Are you kidding me? Like, no, I don't want to be like my dad. And he's also highly spiritual, and he does a lot of things. And for a long time, I had this resentment, right? And then I had this like, I want to save men mentality because I was not good enough for my dad to stay. So I always wanted to be good enough for other men. And it's not like that.
Right.
I mean, life teaches you that it's just, you're not here to save anyone. That's not your job. So when I was 16, 17, I don't remember. My mom sent me from LA to Mexico City to live with my dad. And that's when I got to really see a lot of the things that he does. And I lived with him. We were living in the same house.
That seems random though. Was it your choice or did you have any say in that?
No, not at all. My best friend in LA, who I still talk to and I love dearly, she got pregnant. And my mom was like, okay, so my daughter's best friend just got pregnant. So maybe my daughter's going to be next. And I'm going to prevent that by sending her to another country.
Oh my gosh. And you had grown up here, right?
No, I grew up in Mexico.
Okay. What age did you start living in the US?
Like 13.
Oh, so from 13 to 15 and then you got sent back.
Yeah. So it was this like, you going to see your dad for the summer. And then when it was time to come back, both of my parents were like, nope, you're staying. And it was like 2 weeks before school started. I mean, it was a little traumatic.
Yes, that's devastating for a teenager.
Totally. I mean, I had a boyfriend at the time, and the boyfriend called my dad crying, and he was like, "Don't do this to us." It was cute. Now I thank my mom for it, and I'm not saying that I would have gotten pregnant or followed the path, which I mean, I'm not saying that path is wrong either. It's just my mom was trying to protect me from having a life that she didn't anticipate. She just didn't know how to deal with it. And her way of dealing with it was like, let me send her away. But now I thank her so much for it because I have the experience of being so adaptable to change. I mean, tomorrow I could be in a different country and it's fine. I'm going to be okay. Going back to the whole thing of like, these are the things that I've lived. I don't know if it's my positive mindset of like, let's just embrace it and make it good.
Yeah.
Or like, I do believe that everything happens for a reason. And like, I'm super easy going when it comes to things that don't go the way that we planned them to. It's just like, well, what can you do? It wasn't supposed to happen, right?
Yeah. So
now I thank my mom for having done that. I mean, my life would have been completely different.
Yeah. Who knows what would have happened, really?
Totally. So that's how I got to get to know my dad. Yeah.
So what did you learn about him?
You know what I learned was, I mean, I really got to see his human side. He asked me for forgiveness. And at the time I wasn't ready because I was like, what? Forgiveness for what? But it was, I think, later in life when I had a really toxic relationship that I learned that who I really had to forgive was me. Because I was trying to take up a job that wasn't my job. I had no control over saving men.
The rescuer mode. Yeah.
The rescuer. Yeah. That's not my job. So I had to forgive myself for not being able to complete that task. Right? Like I wasn't never enough for my dad to stay. And then I fell in love with a guy who cheated on me constantly. And I continued to stay because I wanted to believe that I was good enough. And I wanted him to believe that I was good enough when I didn't realize that his issues were completely separate from my issues.
Of course, yeah.
And one thing has nothing to do with the other, even though they're related. And I mean, it took a moment of like when I was completely at the lowest point of my life, depressed. I was in Hawaii. I was in my 20s. And that's when the universe gave me a sign. And the universe sent me a person. And then it was like, okay, You either make the choice or you're going to stay and just sink. And so that's when I realized that it was me who I had to forgive because I didn't complete the job. But that gave me the strength to overcome it later.
That put you like in position for the path to strength.
Yes, totally.
Okay. Wow, that's so powerful.
Thank you.
So it was one person that was sent to you that kind of shifted your perspective on your own forgiveness.
Yeah, it was this girl who I randomly met her. Her name is Lucy, and I don't even know if Lucy is real. Now that her name is, she is real, but I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know what happened to her. That was the one time I saw her, that one chapter in my life, and then I've never had contact with her later or anything. So I was with my ex in Hawaii, and Lucy was dating this other guy, and the two guys were coworkers. Later, I found out that Lucy was married, and Lucy had kids, and she was seeing this guy that was not her husband. And I don't know, sometime that weekend, I was coming back to San Diego to grab my stuff on Sunday.
Okay.
Sometime between Thursday and Saturday, she came over because we were going to go out. And she, out of nowhere, I had not mentioned anything. Both of the guys were upstairs. She looked at me and she said, "Pam, you don't want to be me." And I was like, "What? What are you talking about?"
Right.
And she was like, "I was you." She said, "If you stay, you're going to get a ring, you're going to get married, you're going to have his babies. I was you. I got the ring, I got married, I have his babies. And you don't want to become me because now I'm doing all the things that he put me through. You don't want to be me."
Wow.
Yeah. Out of nowhere. This is when the universe sends you that message, okay, you need to listen. It really it resonated. It really put things in perspective because I saw how unhappy she was and how she was hurting herself more. She was cheating on him at this point, right? But ultimately, she was hurting herself more.
Yeah, and she felt that. Her words were so genuine to you.
Totally. She saved me.
Yeah. So you listened, you took in the words then and there?
Yeah, I listened, but I'm tactical, I guess. I always think there's a reaction to every action. And so that night we were going to go out. So I acted like nothing happened. And until the last day I was there, I wrote him a letter and I read it to him on the way. And that's when I broke up with him.
How did he handle that?
Oh, he admitted. He said, "I have a problem. I genuinely love you and I have a problem." And I understand. At that moment, well, not when Lucy told me, but over the weekend, I had this reborn moment. I don't know what it's.
Yeah, like an epiphany.
Yeah. And that's when I forgave myself because I realized through the things that I saw, because I caught him cheating. Through the things that Lucy said, that's when I was like, whoa, it's not my job to change him. He has his own issues. And I need to forgive myself for trying to do that and not accomplishing the job. And so I did, and I broke up with him. And at that moment, that's when I forgave him. And I told him, "I forgive you for everything. And I thank you for all the lessons that you gave me and for showing me how strong I am, because otherwise I wouldn't know. I really wouldn't. And I wish you the best. And every time I think of, I'm going to send you love and light because I really hope one day you become the potential that I fell in love with."
Yeah.
And I think he's there.
Do you keep in touch with him now?
I don't keep in touch, but I have mutual friends. And when it comes to healing, I had to ask my friends, don't mention him. I'm going to ask. So this is when it comes to your own personal healing, you have to be accountable for it, right? So I knew I wanted to know. I knew I mean, I don't know what it is, but you just kind of hurt yourself or snooping and just doing things. And
sure, yeah, that's common.
Yeah, totally. But I also knew that I wanted to heal because I'd been hurt for so long. So I asked everyone, please, if I ask, if I bring up, if I talk about, don't engage. And stop me. Don't engage. And so then I also made my friends accountable for helping me heal.
Yes. Yeah. Accountability. When it comes to that toxic relationship, it seems like you've healed from it.
Totally. Yeah, 100%. I forgave him at that moment. And that's why I think forgiveness is important, because until the moment you forgive, you're chained up to that person because you're not able to let go. So it took a long time. It took about 3 years.
How long were you with him for?
3 years.
Okay. Oh, that's interesting.
Yes.
You detoxed.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah. What a beautiful ending, because usually breakups from someone that's so toxic and manipulative and a cheater, they don't end up that way most of the time.
Agreed. And again, it goes back to forgiving yourself.
Mm-hmm.
When I experienced it myself, that it's all from forgiving yourself. That's when the forgiveness begins. I've told people, and friends have like broken down at that moment.
Yeah.
Many people, not even from sentimental like friendships. I've had friends whose friendships have broken for multiple reasons. And then a friend of mine, for example, they were really resentful towards the other person. And then I said, so why haven't you forgiven yourself for allowing this person to do this to you?
Yeah.
That's what happened. And that's when it broke. This person was like, whoa.
Yeah, forgiveness is very deep rooted, but so essential to our daily functioning.
Absolutely. And once you forgive, it just gets so much clearer. You're able to see things from a different perspective because you're not holding on to the other person.
Yeah.
You're able to have empathy towards them and to really realize that everyone's broken in their own way. And it's not our fault.
Sometimes it just happens. You don't even ask for it. You're in the middle of
Totally.
nowhere and things around you are happening and they traumatize you. So
absolutely,
it's part of being a human and living this life.
Yes.
But Pam, you have gone on different phases and journeys of forgiveness. What was the next journey of your path towards forgiveness?
Well, the next one, after I forgave myself, after I forgave the guy, I forgive my dad too. I think that's also one thing important to highlight. As an adult, I forgave my dad. I didn't go to therapy the whole time.
Okay.
It was one of those like off and on things. And maybe if I would have, I probably would have processed it earlier. I'm not sure. But as an adult, when I forgave myself from my ex, I forgave my dad. Because that's when I was like, I didn't complete the job to fix this guy who's a serial cheater. Then it's not my job to fix my dad either. And it was never. Me being born and being his daughter doesn't make things better for him to stay. He was going to leave. So that allowed me to forgive him then.
And did you have a conversation just internally within yourself, or did you go up to him and tell him all of this?
No, I think it was more on the soul level. I allowed my soul to talk to his soul and just clear things up. I don't know if either of us are ready for that. It's really deeply rooted. And sometimes I think it's sometimes I think it's healthier not to have the conversations because you don't want to open the wound again.
Okay.
I think.
Yeah. I think it depends, per situation, per person.
Yes.
There's so many factors, and sometimes we don't even know until we're there in the moment.
Right. And also, we live in different countries, so the opportunity hasn't presented itself, and it will when it happens. But I mean, his soul knows that my soul has forgiven him.
And so when did you move back here, I guess, to San Diego, right?
I moved back for college. So after high school, I finished high school, and then I made the decision to move to the U.S. for college. I went to college in Missouri. I had a relationship at the time with a guy who was amazing, and he also taught me many things. And when I told him I wanted to go to the U.S. for college, he said, "I'm never going to stop you from following your dreams." So that was a huge lesson for me. And to this day, we're friends. He always says, I wish maybe I would have gone with you. But I don't regret the fact that I let you pursue your dreams, because you should never hold on to people because that's selfish,
What a gentleman.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Where can he be found for all the single ladies? No, I'm kidding.
He's in Mexico City.
So I heard one of your podcast episodes, the march that you had gone to.
Oh, the March for Black Women. Yes.
The March for Black Women. Okay. I heard that episode, and I recall you mentioning that you went through a lot of stuff during your college years in terms of discrimination.
Totally. Yeah. And, that's something that I had not experienced in the U.S. Dynamics are different in Mexico and the U.S. And in the U.S., you have racism and you have colorism, you have classism. So lots of isms.
Yes.
In Mexico, you have lots of isms too. But it's different. Well, first I moved to the Midwest. I had lived in LA I had lived in California. That was my experience of the US. And I moved to the Midwest where I was the only brown girl. Literally. I mean, I went from not knowing how even college worked.
Yeah.
I had no idea. I had no idea I could get scholarships or grants. I mean, I could have gone to college with scholarships and I didn't know.
Right.
And I did experience a lot of things. I remember one time I was at Walmart talking to my aunt, and the lady, we were speaking Spanish, and the lady behind us was like, I wish these damn Mexicans would learn how to speak English. Like, just voiced it out behind us.
Yeah.
And I turned around and I was like, well, we do. And we also, I mean, she said, I wish they would learn how to speak English. And I turned around and I was like, well, we do speak English.
Yeah.
That's when I said that it's different from California. You don't necessarily see those extremes in California.
Right.
And the Midwest is more like, we don't want you here. And it's pretty open.
Okay.
And I mean, things like that. One professor specifically, he graded one of my papers and he marked a lot of things off. And then the comment said, perhaps it's because of your ESL. Yeah.
How did you feel when you read that?
Well, I was really confused because I was like, wait, what? Like, how does he know? And then I went to Tay, one of my mentors. She was my boss at the time. And she read it and she was livid. She was like, how dare he?
Yeah.
Does he know? Did you ever talk to him about you learning English later, like English being your second? And I'm like, no, we don't talk about this. And so she went through the paper and she was like, these are errors that any native speaker would make. These are not necessarily like you're flipping the words, typically in Spanish. No, it was just like any native speaker would have made that mistake. And so she sent him a letter and then he ended up apologizing. But I mean, I had the voice, I guess, to bring it up to someone, and someone helped me out. But I wonder if other people did and never spoke up.
Yeah, I'm sure that's happened to me too, where I've swallowed certain racism or discrimination and I didn't voice it when I was younger.
Yes.
So yeah, I'm sure this is a very common thing.
Totally. I mean, it was interesting. Also, me moving from two really tropical places. I mean, California and Mexico City, they're really sun all the time. It's hot.
Yeah.
To a place where it's 6 months winter, 4 to 6 months winter. And you don't see the sun sometimes for days, and it's snow. And I mean, so many things that I wasn't used to. I had to learn how to drive in the snow.
Yeah.
And I mean, I found myself, I woke up one day and I was like, I don't feel good. And so then my therapist was like, well, you have something that's called the winter blues, and you need to get a UV light and basically sit under it.
Oh my gosh, that's so weird. I mean, weird for me because I haven't left my California bubble too much. And I'm a therapist here in California. I don't deal with any
with winter blues. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, tell me more.
Yeah. So basically he said that my body was not getting enough vitamin D. And so that messed up with my hormones, that therefore made me depressed, which now looking back, I was going through a lot more than that, just the winter, but the winter was the catalyst. And I don't know, that was really funny. And I did not get a UV light. So I was like, you didn't get one. They were like $100. And I was like, I'm a college student.
Yeah.
I worked full time the whole time I was in college because I didn't know how college worked. So I paid my whole college career working full time. And I was like, I don't have time to sit under a UV light.
Yeah.
And he was like, well, maybe you can go tan, because in the Midwest, there's a lot of tanning salons. And I was completely foreign to that idea. I had no idea that those things even existed. And he was like, well, go to a tanning bed and I'm like, have you seen me? I don't need to tan. I wait for the summer and I go to the pool if I need to tan.
Yeah.
So to me, that whole concept of the winter blues, which is true. I mean, it's a legit thing that happens. Yeah. But at the time I was like, this is just BS. Like, get out of here.
But it wasn't a mentality where you were stigmatizing therapy. It was just that you had always been around the sun and...
Yeah. I mean, it didn't make sense, Yeah. It was like, what? It wasn't it wasn't the therapy it was just like the solution to concept. My issue. Yeah. Was like, so I didn't do it. I stayed depressed for years. And then finally I came out of it. Thank God.
Yeah. During your college experience, you had also a traumatizing experience.
Yeah, that was after college. It was here in California. It was actually when I was healing through my previous relationship. So I had broken up with a Hawaii guy. Well, I was in Hawaii when he lived in Hawaii. He moved there. We went to college together. Okay. But he moved there.
Oh, so the Lucy experience was after college.
Yes, we had just graduated from college. so I was going through my healing and I was seeing guys because I was like, who cares?
Mhm.
You know, like this is my time. I've been with a guy for a long time and he didn't care for me. So I'm not going to, I mean, this stages of healing when I didn't care, really, my heart was like completely rock solid.
Mhm.
And I had met this guy and I had a date with him. And I lived in San Diego. He lives in Orange County.
Mhm.
And we met up and I got really drunk. I think he did some, I don't know. I have a pretty solid tolerance for alcohol. And that day didn't work. So I don't know. But I just remember he kept giving me drinks. And then I remember us going, it was really late and we were in the middle. You know, I lived in San Diego.
Mhm.
We met in Orange County, Newport Beach, something like that. I was going to go see my grandma in LA.
Okay.
So it's like in the middle. But it's still a solid hour and a half to get there. So I was not in the position to drive. And I was like, well, drop me off in my car and I'll sleep there.
Mhm.
You know, like what I did, I just would go out to dinner with guys all the time and then go home because that's what was fun to me. Everything. I didn't want to get involved in any additional way other than to just
No
hang
strings
out with people.
attached.
Yeah, no, at all. And so, I mean, I remember I was really drunk and I was like, well, I'm not going to drive for sure. No, I'm not going to drive. I can't. So just drop me off in my car and I'll drive home in the morning. It's fine. And he was like, no. Next thing I know, he's at a hotel and he pulled up and we got out, got a room, went up. And I was like, I just want to go to sleep. Like, I don't know why you're here. I thought you were getting me a room. Like, what's going on? And I mean, next thing I know, he's on top of me and doing things I didn't want him to do. And even though I told him not to do it. So his perception of consent wasn't clear because it didn't matter how many times I said no and how many times I said I don't want to.
Right.
I mean, I was intoxicated, but I still was conscious enough to say no.
Yeah.
I mean, he did it. And the next morning he dropped me off in my car. First thing I did was find a gym. I had a 24-hour fitness membership. And you know, when you can go to anywhere. So I found the nearest one and I walked in and I showered for hours and hours. I don't remember how long. I just felt so disgusting. And I was numb for the next few days and I didn't know what happened. I was really confused because, you know, the guilt then creeps in, which is one of the signs that it was my fault. Especially women, I think now looking back, I think of how we've grown up to see ourselves. I mean, from Eve, Adam and Eve, it was Eve's fault, right? Like I was like, well, I drank. I said I got in his car. I wore these leggings. Whatever, you name it. I was going through all the things that I did to make it happen when in reality, it didn't matter what I did. I said no. And I mean, I went through a lot when it came to that because when I came back to San Diego, I went to see my grandma. I was numb. I don't remember. When I came back to San Diego, I was telling my friend, they were like, so what happened? How did it go? And I was like, well, we had sex, but I didn't want to. Oh, yes, you did. Yes, you did. You know, you liked him. And I'm like, no.
Yeah.
How do you it was so hard for me to tell them. And these are the people that I love, right? And they were like, yeah, you did want it. Like, come on now. So this is when I think people need to be aware of the statements that you tell others.
Right.
When someone's telling you, no, I didn't want it, you don't know what that person wanted. I kept talking about it. And that's when I realized trauma because one of my friends, I remember we were in the kitchen. She was like, okay, can you stop talking about it? It happened. It's done. Stop talking about it. And that's when I was like, whoa. So I really must be talking about it too much to where I need to release it. And my friends are getting fed up about it. Like there's something. So then I reached out to RAINN.
RAINN.org.
RAINN.org. And I typed up what happened. And I was like, I don't know what happened. But this happened. I don't know what to define it. I had no words to define it. So they confirmed that it was a sexual assault. I mean, as long as you said no, you don't want it. And so that kind of I feel like a lot of times we live in this, it might have been in a way, but maybe it might have been easier to never find out that it was true because I would have lived in the potential maybe, but maybe it was my fault kind of thing, which is still hurting. It's not good. Then it was confirmed. Then it was the affirmation that yes, you went through this. And so that's when I started seeking help and I mean, I went through this whole journey of truly forgiving myself and really understanding that whatever I did had nothing to do with what he did.
Yes. Yeah. So then here's another layer of forgiveness where you have to forgive yourself first. And then eventually, how was your journey towards forgiving him?
I mean, it took a minute. It took a minute to forgive me in this sense, because every sign that from the way that we grow up, right?
Yeah.
It's like, it's the woman's fault. I mean, Eve ate the apple. So because of Eve, the whole history of humanity changed. Yeah. So of course it was my fault, right? So that took a while to understand, and I had to really work on it internally to really understand that, number one, I didn't deserve it. It wasn't my choice. Yeah. And number three, I had no control over it. I mean, he made the choice. And so I forgave him. Eventually I forgave him because I realized that he also had his own traumas and issues on him that I cannot fix. And the quicker I forgave him, the faster I detached myself from his story. So
how long did that take you?
Probably a year. I would say a year.
And what were the most helpful factors for you?
I think realizing that my friends are not my therapists. And that was when that one friend said, stop talking about it. That's when I was like, okay, they're not equipped to answer. It's just, it's not that they don't care. It's not, they don't have the knowledge to react to something so traumatizing. Right. So I made the conscious choice of not mentioning that to my friends. I started meditation. Okay. I learned, and it's one of those like things just happen. I met my first meditation mentor, and I started meditating, really like practicing it, and truly believing that love trumps everything. And loving myself first. And then I met my current partner, who was the way that he reacted when I told him, I was like, dang, okay. So I'm not dirty, because for a long time I felt that I had this like stain in me almost. I was like, well, no guy is going to want to talk to me because I'm like tainted, or I don't know. So when I told him, and he was like, well, I'm so sorry that happened to you. I'll be here for whatever you need. I was like, but you still like me? Like, you, like, are we good?
Yeah, he shifted everything.
And I was like, wow, like I'm not a dirty person, or I'm not a second-class citizen, or you know, different things that you put in your head. And he helped a lot, and he still does. I mean, he's pretty amazing. What's Red Sparrow, the movie, and they have a scene where it happens, she gets sexually assaulted in a hotel. And he told me, he was like, okay, don't watch that movie because it might trigger something. And I forgot. And I watched it. And I came out and I was like, oh my gosh. And he was like, I told you. So he still, to this day, he watches over me, and he's completely aware of things that could potentially trigger me, which is so amazing. Yes. So that helped. Self-love, really. Like after that, I learned to love. I had my previous experience with my ex helped me love myself, because for a long time I loved someone else more than I loved me. Yeah. After going through that, I learned that I had to love myself first. And when this happened, I mean, I was asked also, why don't you report it? And to me, at the end of the day, I always went back to what's going to help me with my healing. And reporting is not going to help me. In my personal experience, I didn't want to go through the whole thing again, because when it comes to the criminal justice system, you have to retell it and recount it, and you have to, and to me, it wasn't going to help in my healing. I wasn't ready. And in California, you have 8 years, I believe, to report it, or 5. I'm not sure. There's different state is different. Each state has different regulations, and each state has different laws on what is determined as consent. So it's not an easy process, and I didn't want to put myself through that. It wasn't going to help with my healing. So I made conscious decisions that would help me just be more whole. Yeah. Get back to being whole.
Yeah. And that decision solely has to come from the survivor, such as yourself. No one else can make that decision for you, because like you're saying, it could either re-traumatize you, or it can definitely help you in your healing. But everyone is just so different. So you do have to listen to yourself, and as you did.
Yeah. And I think family members and loved ones need to respect that. I had a situation where when I was in corporate America, one of my coworkers, her daughter experienced sexual assault. And she was devastated. And I told her my experience. And And she was like, well, why didn't you report it? And I said, because it wasn't going to help with my healing. And if she doesn't want to report it, you need to respect it. Because you really don't want her to go through that experience again. And yes, I'm not saying justice doesn't need to happen. Yes, I'm all for that. But at the end of the day, I'm much more for the healing of the survivor.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And I don't know, sometimes it's hard for people who love you to be like, but we want justice. Well, justice might happen with your own healing.
Yeah. Yeah. So Pam, where are you at currently with your journey towards healing? You sound very strong.
Well, I work on it every day. Yeah. Healing, I think healing is constant. Healing is, it's the infinity sign. Once you go through, which every human has a traumatic experience at some point.
Yeah.
I think. And I don't think we ever stop healing. I always say that scar tissue is stronger than skin. So, I mean, we get stronger, but there's still sometimes, when you have that scar and you hit it, sometimes it's like, oh shoot, it's like deeper. So, I mean, the healing happens. I mean, it's every day. I think just practicing self-care, therapy is important.
Yes.
I practice EFT tapping and helped a lot. I use a lot of healing crystals, and we're going to go to the spiritual side, like really honing into that inner self and the messages that our own self gives us.
Yes.
Because our intuition tells us so many things. I had so many signs, not for my sexual assault, but for my previous relationship. Oh my gosh. And I chose not to listen. So really learning to take care of yourself.
Yeah. And one thing that you also mentioned with the Red Sparrow, is that the movie?
Yeah, the movie.
Is to identify your triggers. Start, recognizing what bothers you, what sets you back into your PTSD or your flashbacks. What are those things? And, learn how to self-soothe through them or, completely process them.
Absolutely. 100%. And one thing, especially in the Latinx brown communities, I think now that people are coming out more with like mental health and all this stuff, it's great. I think it's important also to know your triggers and to tell people that you love that these are your triggers.
Okay. Yeah.
I've done it. And I mean, sometimes people don't, because people don't know how to react to these things, but I'm like, well, let's just be careful. For example, with the use, when people use the word rape so lightly.
Yeah.
I've told people, look, you don't know what this word is going to feel for other people. This word is a really strong word, and you need to be careful when you use it so lightly. Some people have gone through things that this word really, really pushes them deep, and it hurts.
Right.
And if you love others, you need to stop using it so lightly. And I mean, doing it always from a place of love where you're not like regañándolos, but you're actually like educating.
Yeah, it's teaching and like just setting your boundary.
Yeah. Yes. And I think that helps for other people too, who may not be, I want to say strong enough, but may not be strong enough to voice it out.
Yeah. Well, Pam, is there anything else that you would like to share before we get all your contact info?
Forgive yourself, I think. Whatever resentment you have towards someone else, what do you need to forgive yourself about?
That's a good final note. Drop the mic. All right, Pam. So where can everybody find you?
I hang out a lot on Instagram with Cafe Con Pam Podcast. I am on my personal is at Cobyux, COB as in boy, IUX. So I hang out there. My website is spreadideasmovepeople.com.
I love your Instagram stories. They're really cute and funny.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pam. Sexual assault experiences do not all look the same. Everyone has their own story. If you or someone you know has experienced sexual assault, RAINN, the Rape, Abuse, and Incest National Network, is the nation's largest anti-sexual violence organization that has many programs to help survivors and ensure that perpetrators are brought to justice. But that's optional. You don't have to bring them to justice either if you don't want to. Their number for any survivor is 1-800-656-4673. Find them at rainn.org. Double N. RAINN.org. Now, in terms of resources, for any dreamer struggling through college, check out Sarai Salamanca's My Dear Friends app to find scholarships. Her app can be found at www.dreamersroadmap.com. She has an amazing mission after struggling herself when she was going through college. So she created this app so that any dreamer can find money so they don't have to drop out of college. I want to thank Cynthia Navarro for donating for today's segment. She has an Etsy store. Please check it out. Her name on Etsy is Oh So Lively Studio. She has party supplies and gift decor. I am very thankful for you. You can find me at Latinx Therapy on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Venmo. Email me at latinxtherapypodcast@gmail.com for any questions or resources. Find the resources also on the show notes. Remember that you can always contact Pam as well. She mentioned her Instagram. She's mostly on Instagram at Café con Pam podcast. That's not pan as in bread. It's Pam like her name. So if there's anything that you want to discuss with her, she's open to getting messages from any of you. She also debriefed about her experience on her own podcast about what we talked about today. And that episode is episode 70 on her podcast called Forgiveness. Listen to that if you haven't already done so after hearing today's Break the Stigma guest with Pam. All right, everyone. Thursday, we will hear Jackie Marquez talk about food that helps our mental health and the techniques that she uses to feed her baby girl veggies and fruits, all in Spanish. All right. Hope to hear from many of you. Please do not be shy to reach out. I am here for you. The emails that come through about finding resources and needing help are a priority to me. So I will get back to you. And again, you can find me on any social media platform. All right, I'll leave it at that.